Good evening, paranormal peeps. It's Sunday, April 25th. Thank you for joining us. In the studio with me tonight, I have two fellow Agent Paranormal investigators. I'd like to introduce you to Maeve Jordan and Stephanie Couture. Did I say that right, Stephanie?
You said it right.
Okay, I've been slaughtering her last name, so I'm not even going to tell you how I pronounced it because she'll get mad at me. But it's nice to know that I actually pronounced it correctly. And behind the screen, we got Todd. Todd's here. But Todd doesn't want to turn his microphone on because he doesn't want
I'm here.
now he turns
You
it
can't
on.
see me, but I'm here.
There.
I'm here in spirit. You see what I did there? Spirit?
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
I
right.
hear
You should
that.
keep your microphone off.
Yeah, I think so. See, I told you. As soon as you heard from me, I'd put my foot in my mouth.
There you go. Kevin's in Vegas, so he's not going to be joining us. Right, Maeve?
Yep.
Okay, good. So,
Free pass for the weekend, right?
is that a thing?
No, it's not, Rich. Don't ask.
You mentioned it.
Take it back. Take it back.
I mean, if you're going to throw that out there, you're going to have to fully answer. So tonight, we have a special episode for you. So we're not going to talk about things that go bump in the night. We're not going to talk about UFOs. We're not going to talk about the demonic and all that kind of stuff. We are going to talk about psychic powers. You heard me right. Psychic powers. Aren't you excited?
I'm very excited.
Me too. I have no psychic powers, by the way. So sometimes I think I do, and I claim that I do, but on record, probably not. Probably not. So
What do you claim that you have? What kind of psychic powers?
well, pretty much all the 8 major ones.
All of them?
Yeah, pretty
That
much
makes
all
sense,
of them.
yeah.
All of them.
All of
Yeah.
them are nothing, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there's more. I don't know how to pronounce them, so I'm not going to say that I have them. So
That's fair.
Because, in the world of paranormal and the metaphysics and stuff, we like to create these literally long words to describe things. And sometimes they're real tongue twisters. So as you'll find out tonight as I try to pronounce some of these, they don't just roll off the tongue naturally.
They don't.
Okay? So,
They don't make sense either.
no, they don't. So you may be asking, why Stephanie and why Maeve? Maeve, this is actually your first time here.
This is my first time in studio. I did do some of the Zoom episodes in the beginning.
Ah,
Or
okay.
in the beginning of the
I
pandemic,
forgot about
should
that.
say.
Steffi's been a reoccurring guest.
I have.
But now she's going to actually input some of her own experiences into the show, just like Maeve. And I'm just here to host and narrate.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it's good to be back. I've been off for a few episodes, out taking care of things in life, and I'm happy to be back to the show.
Yes.
And we've got some really cool episodes coming up. But before we get there, we need to go here and talk about tonight. So, by doing some research, I found, ladies, that there are 8 major psychic powers. 8.
Wow.
I'm just wondering who thought of all these or how they became a significant psychic power.
I don't know.
You know
For
what I mean?
years and years,
Good
they
question.
thought there was only the 5 senses, and now there's 8 psychic abilities. So
Yeah.
who knows what they'll come up with next?
Well, yeah, it's a field that's constantly developing. I mean, it's pseudoscience, so we're kind of creating it as we go along. But I've always remembered a long time ago when I first got involved in the paranormal, and Pete gave me a lot of tips because Pete had a little more experience under his belt investigating than I did. And he always told me that it's always your senses are your first tool
Right.
investigating. Your what you smell, what you see, what you hear, and what you feel. Those are usually indicators of something's going on. So when you really focus in on those and heighten them during investigation, you then can start to tune into what's around you. And then all of a sudden you feel like, I think somebody's behind me, or I think somebody's staring at me, or, I got really cold over here, or do you smell that, So then once you start investigating, those things just almost like come into play. I don't know if it's because you've gone down a path and that comes along with it, or you're drawn into the paranormal and you already have some of these capabilities
Yeah, I believe
beforehand.
That's a good point.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of things to discuss, but we'll all crack open a beer some night and we'll have a long discussion on that. We'll see how deep we can get into it, how far we go down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
so I want to talk about the mate.
All right.
8 major psychic powers.
I think that accent came back out.
It did,
Yes.
mate.
Might.
Well, it started when Stephanie said, God, oh, God. Babe was saying something, and Stephanie's like, oh, God. Where'd that come from?
Fun
My
times.
past life.
Okay, see, it's
comes
one of
out
your
sometimes.
it's one of your psychic abilities to be able to talk in multiple dialects. I can talk English, I can talk normal. So let's start with the number one major psychic power. Okay, now I know the ladies here have some of these abilities, and I'm hoping you go into detail a little bit and explain it. I've heard of some of these things, and I think I've experienced a few of them investigating, but I'm not claiming that I have any of the stuff, but I can relate to some of it. So let's start with the first one, which is clairvoyance. That's probably one a lot of people have heard that terminology before.
Yeah.
When I think of clairvoyance, I think of Lorraine Warren.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Being a clairvoyant. And of course, if you watched all the Conjuring movies and if you followed her in real life and any of the documentaries or read the books, she's a clairvoyant. And which kind of goes hand in hand with Ed, who's a paranormal investigator. So it's kind of like having another tool, other than something physical like an instrument or a recorder or something along those lines.
Absolutely.
So what is clairvoyance? Well, it's the ability to see clearly, whether through your mind's eye and with visions or through your actual eyes, which is rares. So when psychics do readings, they see in their mind's eye situations or people that can describe this to their clients. So what does that mean to you? Have you ever had an experience with the clairvoyance?
Once I did. It's I don't know. It comes really quick. That's the thing. Whenever it happens to me, at least, I feel like it's an instant thought. It's something that comes really quick, and the quicker it is, the more I realize it's like a sense coming from the above more than it is my own thought. I actually was able to. I've never done this before either. Like one time before, I was able to channel a coworker, his grandmother. And it was the weirdest feeling because I just suddenly was really anxious, and I just kind of told myself, okay, if I get really anxious just out of nowhere, I'm going to concentrate on it. So I listened to some meditation music, closed my eyes. All of a sudden I heard Helen, and then I saw like Christmas lights and Christmas decorations in a basement. And it was very weird, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go with it. I'm going to write it down. And I told myself, I Googled Helen, and I put like there's two people in the room with me, and I did with like one of their last names, and then the next one, if something came up, like someone local named Helen with one of their last names came up, I told myself I was going to talk about it. I was going to let them know. And, sadly it was true. So I told myself, crap, I need to live up to, just basically do it. I need to say it. And it ended up being his grandmother, and it was just a weird situation. It's like, it's hard to kind of stop your brain from living your life and just being like, okay, calm down and listen or pay attention. And like sometimes, and I also actually felt a little pain in my throat, and he didn't know much about his grandmother, so he couldn't give me too much. But all I know is that the name was right, which that was enough proof for me. Because what are the chances that his grandmother would be named Helen?
Right.
So that's probably the only example I can think of that's really been substantial to me. Because anything else that has happened, any feelings or things that I see or sense, I mean, there's no proof in those moments. So it's hard for me to say, oh, I'm this, because your mind automatically goes to, you made that up, you imagined it, or you're a little crazy.
Yeah, or you just explain it away for something else.
Exactly.
And that's what took years and years for me to, and actually Kevin was the one that kind of finally opened up my eyes and said, hey, there's more to this than what you're explaining away, because he had a different view that allowed me to see past my own judgment. So, but I don't have any examples of clairvoyance.
So, I mean, it's kind of clairvoyance when you watch a supernatural movie or TV show and there's some type of psychic on there or some kind of psychic experience. Most of the time it's like clairvoyance. They can see, they get a vision of something that's going to happen, like a bad vision, that someone's going to die or that something's going to happen along the lines. So it's like almost like kind of seeing a little in the future.
Yeah.
Is it also seeing something that happened in the past?
I believe so, yeah.
So, you can see like how someone like, and I'm going to apply a lot of this to the paranormal investigating because we're a paranormal investigating group, and this is a paranormal show. Agent Paranormal.
Where am I?
Agent Psychic. So, but, you know, my experience is that when I was in another paranormal group before, you know, forming Agent Paranormal with some others, it was a very scientific group, and they thought that psychics and mediums were all BS.
And that was very hard for me.
All BS, it's all crap, and we should study them. We should put instruments on them, and, you know, they're not scientific experiments. You know what I mean? They're not guinea pigs. They're human beings. Mm-hmm. So I basically, being a paranormal investigator, you're supposed to have an open mind. You're supposed to be like, okay, this is a pseudoscience. I'm going to explore every avenue there is, and then I'm going to check it off my list. Does the ovulus work? I don't know. Let me buy an ovulus. Let me take an ovulus out in the field. Let me test an ovulus. And if it comes back with a reoccurring theme of accurately predicting or getting evidence, then I'm going to check that on my list. Is that's a piece of equipment that's valuable, you know? And then also, you know, studying people who are clairvoyant and psychics. And I had a lot of experience working with them and telling me things that there was just no way they would know. And I remember doing an investigation here locally with a local psychic, and we were in the house, and she was communicating with a boy, and she said something about a card. There was a card in this room for the boy, and I'm looking through it, and all of a sudden something come flying out and hit me in the back of the head, and I heard her, the psychic, yell my name, Ratch, and I turn around, and I'm like, did you guys just throw something at me? It's kind of rude. What the hell, you know? And they said they saw the card come flying across the room, and we put a flashlight on it, and it was the card from this kid. It was like a Valentine's Day card. It was like an old card. I mean, like old stationery. And I'm like, wow, that's weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know. So, and then basically working with someone like Paulette Moon, and through tarot card experiences and through readings and sessions, and having her tap into things that they just, you know, didn't know.
I am going to jump in here because I think it's weird that people who believe in ghosts have a hard time believing in psychic ability. Does that seem strange to anybody else?
It seems strange, but it's so
like,
common.
Come on, I know it is.
Yeah.
But
You know what's even more stranger?
Yeah.
To tap off of what you just
think
said.
there's energy that come from people that can live on, but you can't. You
Right.
don't think these people.
You can't
other
like
people with stronger
believe
energy.
the energy.
Right.
I'm
Then
sorry. I
somebody
didn't mean to interrupt
basically,
you.
somebody's like, well, I'm a paranormal investigator, but it's only scientific. If it's not scientific, I don't believe in it. Yet they go to church every Sunday and pray to a spirit
Yeah.
or a deity that's just written about in books, and there's pictures in churches. So they don't believe in the ghosts unless they have scientific proof. Yet they go to church and pray to God and all the prayers and the Holy Ghost and everything. I'm like,
But
I mean, that's just kind of like it doesn't make any sense to me. Either you believe in it or you don't.
Sorry, I just had to say that. That really pisses me off.
No,
Drives me nuts.
but I'm going to be completely honest with you. Kevin and I talk about this all the time. If someone says that they're psychic, our first instinct is, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
it's
I mean,
because
there's a healthy
of my
skepticism
own.
about it. Yeah, and
I
you
mean, I
gotta,
don't-
you know, a lot of people
Yeah.
are just out there for, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people that I can tell are
Right. Like,
just
I always think that
totally
they're
full of it.
charlatans.
Yeah.
Like, when you texted that, I was like, ugh, like my shoulders went up, and I was like, I need to talk to her before we go on the show.
Yeah.
And obviously we discussed a lot, and we're definitely,
It's
but
good to
it's
talk about.
always, my first instinct is that they're charlatans and they're just trying to pull a con and things like that. But I totally agree though that like, I don't know why I feel this way, but I think it's mostly because of
The stigma.
yeah, and the massive.
I would
And there's a
never-
lot of them out there,
done.
and there are a lot of them out there, which detracts from all the legitimate people that have abilities that are out there that can do things. And it's not. See, the thing about problem is that people, whenever you say somebody's psychic, they're like, "Oh, what's the winning lottery number?"
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
You're not a millionaire.
It's not how. It's not
you're not
how
a fortune
it
teller.
works.
Okay?
Right.
You're not a fortune teller. That's to me, that's the number one sign when I start seeing psychics go, oh, telling the future.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
charlatans
You know what?
that she
Yeah,
was
exactly.
talking
Yeah,
about.
you're full of shit. Okay.
Yeah,
You're full of shit.
that's those people.
Yeah.
Psychics have almost kind of like another sense that I'm pretty sure we all have. They just know how to tap into it, or it's easy for them to get into. Because sometimes you can build your whole life without having any kind of ability, and all of a sudden be 55 years old and boom, get it.
That's a very common
Or
story,
you can
actually.
you can grow up with it, you know. So, you know, and for me, a lot of things that I've experienced investigating came, I never had before I was investigating. Never once ever had the experience. And I started investigating. I'm like, these are weird feelings I'm getting. Why am I drawn this way? Or why am I drawn to that?
Yeah.
Things like that. So,
and plus it gets better with practice too. The more you open yourself up to it, the better you're going to be and the more sensitive you're going to be.
yeah.
And actually, to talk about that fear just a little bit, because we did mention religion, I noticed, like, I think I could be a full-on medium, like talking to the dead, if I didn't have that innate fear that religion kind of placed in me when I was young. It's because there's just so much of the unknown that's so scary, right? And that's, for me at least, I'm not saying all religions are like this, but for me as a kid, I'm just like, oh, God wouldn't want that. Like, I have to sort of rewire my brain a little bit.
Makes you wonder how many people with that ability have been stifled by the church or that type of thing.
I've heard that before. There was a psychic.
Because it's a bad thing.
Right.
You're not supposed to be a clairvoyant.
Exactly.
But I know a guy who is, and he's a devout Christian. But,
yeah, totally. That totally exists.
There's a video on it because I made the video for him.
Going back to the Salem witch trials when people had abilities or whatever, or did something that would mistakenly indicate witchcraft or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's religion and the metaphysical have never really saw eye to eye, but they seem to be getting a little bit closer now. They seem to be starting to intertwine a little bit. There's a little bit more acceptance because, let's face it, 100 years ago, religion is viewed differently than it is now. In 100 years before that, it was viewed much differently. So it's almost like we use religion as kind of like an underlying script. Like, okay, here's like the veil. This is the veil. Stay under the veil. And if you get into trouble, based on experiences and case studies and things that I've read and researched, religion is a form of protection, okay? And basically we perceive it much differently than they did back in the Renaissance age and all that kind of stuff where everything was like, giant people with long hair and beards and flowing robes. I mean, it's so much different now. Yeah. To me, it's energy it's mainly energy. There's positive and there's negative energy. It works at all times, all around us. And when we investigate, sometimes we come across that negative energy. And religion is a form of positive energy, push back against it. That's what, at least that, my experience with it is. But I was raised a Catholic. I went to communion and confession and all that kind of stuff too as well, confirmation. So it keeps you on a good path,
Yeah.
It puts your moral compass.
I wasn't coming down on you, man.
Yeah, no. It keeps your moral compass.
Don't get a complex.
Good, but
it does.
But religion in itself inherently has a lot of problems, as we know, with the priests and young boys, and I mean, so it's basically it's kind of it's much different. Than
also, another aspect of that, like, is believing in demons, and like if you play with a Ouija board, you can get possessed, and I don't know the answer to that, but I know that fear of what is lurking, what evil is lurking, is stopping me from really going deeper into any sort of senses. Which could be totally valid, or it could be that I need to rewire my brain because demons aren't real. That's a whole other conversation, though.
Right. So it all comes to what you believe in.
Where that fear is. Yeah, like where's your fear? Where does it lie? And how's it going to stop you or block you? I should say.
Right. Exactly. So let's move on to the second one here that we're talking about. Clair Sentience, and it's not clear sentence, as I pronounced it like 4 times before I actually practice it in my head. This is like the most common of the psychic abilities, okay? And it's the ability to feel things around a situation or a person or a future experience. This is kind of, is being an empath also associated with this?
Yes.
Because if you're picking up like a person and you're picking up emotions and feelings and things of that way, based on this article, it is pretty close to what it is. So being an empath, you can what, sense the emotion of a person. So someone's standing over there, okay, and they're not saying a word. You can feel the emotion coming off them if they're sad or if they're angry or.
I mean, for me, I don't know the person. I don't know directly where it's coming from. For me, I know. Have you ever had that feeling where you walk into a room and you just feel like, oh, there was an argument in here, like there's some negative energy in here?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I think many of
that's-
us have. I mean, you walk
Yeah.
in. I mean, you can almost feel it. You know, like it
Yeah,
cuts through
like the
air,
cloud
the
that
knife.
comes,
It's
like a certain
wow,
person comes in and there's
Not
like a
good in
cloud
here.
over them.
Not good in here. So, how would this ability work well in the field of the paranormal? How could this assist?
Well, what I do, because mine is, I mostly, so there's a difference between people feeling empathic and being an empath. Mine is like if we're in a group of people, and I get mostly very, very hot emotions. So like if somebody's very, very angry, I will immediately become just as angry as that person. If someone's very upset, I usually end up crying. I didn't realize this until later in life, and I just always thought that I was socially awkward and I didn't have a lot of control over my emotions and things like that. And Kevin actually is one of the ones that helped me understand more about this and develop it and practice with it. But in the field of paranormal investigating, what I do is I go into a room, usually by myself, because other people can, if I haven't practiced in a while, or if there's just too many people, I have a tendency to not be able to take out the other people's emotions. So if I go into a room, I open up. I don't know how to explain it, but I open myself up. I see, mine's very based on colors for some reason. So I open up my gold
cool.
color. If I touch another color, that's another person's emotions. And a lot of times in paranormal investigating, that's the energy of another spirit.
Mhm.
And when I touch it, I experience those emotions. So like when we were in Gettysburg and we were on the bridge, I don't remember what the name of the bridge was. I apologize, Pete. I don't remember what the bridge was. But there was, Pete told me that there was, leading up to it, I got very angry that night. It wasn't like an anger. It was like a fear anger. I was like fearful of something going on. I got very anxious, but I got angry about it too. And so I was telling Kevin about it, and Kevin was telling Pete about it, and Pete said that there was an argument that led to a murder that night, or something happened. I don't remember exactly what it was, because it was like 3 years ago now. But those are the types of ways that I use it in paranormal investigating. So if I reach out and I touch another energy source, I try to find out what that source is. Sometimes it's just there. Sometimes there's no feelings associated with it, but now I know that there is probably a spirit or a type of energy manifesting in the room. And then we can either start an EVP session with it, or we can just set up an audio recorder or a grid box. That's what I use my abilities for specifically in paranormal investigating.
It's interesting that you use colors as a
I
visualization.
don't know why.
Yeah, that's
It's a way to
cool.
visualize it.
Yeah.
In your mind, that's a way you decided that that's how you can sense it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To wrap it around it for some
And
reason.
actually,
So it's interesting. I love to hear people say
Yeah.
how they visualize things, because I think it's just a way for yourself to build something, a way
Like
to
your
wrap
own
your head around it,
language.
right? So
And
you can understand what's going on.
And it all started because I do energy work in my massage, and I use that when I ground myself. I create a gold light, and that's why I use the gold again with that. And then as it expands over the person, we become the same color, blah, blah, blah. And my first experience with my empathic abilities that I can verbally tell you this was 100% an empathic ability was during a massage. And I went home and I told Kevin about it, and he was like, we need to have a very long discussion about what you just told me, because I think that you have abilities that you don't know about. And that was the trigger. So
Oh, that's so cool.
Kevin said Saxbridge.
Saxbridge. I knew it was Saxbridge. I knew it. And I didn't want to say it and be wrong, though.
Wow, he in Vegas, in between
Yep,
playing the
yep.
slots,
In between the slots.
paying attention to
Are
the
you
show.
losing all the money?
Got it.
The strippers and the tables and everything, and then
But
Girls dancing in cages, and he's watching our show.
Yeah, what
That's
can
dedication.
I say?
That's
But
dedication.
I can tell the story later. I don't know if you want to continue with the list or if you want me to talk about my first experience.
Well, we've got 6 more to go through, so
That's exactly what I was
I
thinking.
mean, there's a lot of them, and I think it would just be if you want to share it now, or do you want to share
I
it later?
can do it after. It's
Okay,
fine.
we'll come back to that then.
No problem.
So we're going to circle back to Maeve's story here. Let's go on to the next one, which is clairaudience.
You can
Okay.
start that one.
This is the ability to hear telepathically. So, you know, it's not like someone's in the other room talking. It's like you're hearing sounds, like, you know, somebody's calling to you or something. I mean, I think this is something that many of us as paranormal investigators have experienced.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having your name called out. Or, I mean, I remember we were doing an investigation at Fort Bull in Rome, and we were walking back. It was dark, and we were going around the side, and there were some buildings. It was on a different property. So we had to walk, you know, we couldn't trespass on that property. We had to walk around it. And I remember we went by a house, and I heard, yoo-hoo, like a girl's voice. And I stopped, and it was just 4 guys, just 4 dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped, and I go, did you just hear somebody say yoo-hoo? And I remember Steve saying, I did. It was a female voice. And then it was, I think there's a guy, Mark, with us. And I go, Mark, did you hear something? Because I did. I go, what did you hear? Tell me. I don't want to basically implant, you know, what I heard into your head, so you're going to rip it. And he said, yoo-hoo. And so I'm like, it came from over there where that building is. That's where I heard the sound. That's what it came to me. But was it actually like an audio yoo-hoo? No, because it was a spirit. They don't have a voice box.
Right.
So it was something that we would hear in our brains. It's just like smelling smoke. When you go in some place and like, there was a fire here, and all of a sudden you start to smell smoke. Mm-hmm. There's no smoke. It's somehow being telepathically sent to you so that your senses are aware of it, but there's nothing burning. Because you'd be somebody else like, I don't smell smoke. I'm like, how can you not? It's like, it smells like the
Right.
building's on fire. Like, I don't smell anything. That basically just goes right there to tell you that spirits can send you information, words, voices, smells, maybe even touches. Maybe when they even touch you or pinch you or something, it's not physically grabbing you. It's, you know, telepathically, and you're reacting to it, you know?
Yeah.
So this is something that you want to share a little bit, because this is something that you've had some experience with.
I have,
Stephanie.
yeah.
So why don't you go ahead?
Well, when I was younger, I used to just hear like just random voices like, hey, or someone would say my name. There was one instance with, I was in the house alone. I was playing the piano, and right in between playing notes, I hear Stephanie, this little voice, and I stop playing and I'm looking around. I'm like, what's going on? My mom comes home later and she's like, the weirdest thing happened. I'm driving along and I heard someone say Stephanie in the car. And it was like, we think obviously like pretty much synced up almost at the exact same time. Don't know why, don't know who it is, but it just was a weird moment. Now what I do is I use, so like I don't hear it it doesn't sound like physically, it's like quick thoughts that come into my head when I do tarot readings for friends. And just the ideas of like, okay, pay attention to this part of the card, pay attention to this definition. I had this one girl, she got like the 6 of Pentacles and the 6 of Wands. And something told me to pay attention to the 6. And I asked her, I was like, all right, what does the 6 mean to you? And she goes, oh, I hate that number. I was like, why? And she goes, no, I hate that number. It's like my bad luck number. I'm like, okay. And she goes, it just shows up all the time in my life. And luckily I was able to educate her a little bit. I was like, I don't think you should be afraid of that. Again, being afraid of like the unknown, right? Because there's also angel numbers, not to change the subject a little bit, but angel numbers. So we looked up the meaning of the angel number 6, and it just worked perfectly with her, and how she was too scared to open up her abilities to come around full circle. But yeah, a lot of things I hear are not, I don't hear it physically anymore. Not like when I was younger. Now it's in my head a little bit. It's like ideas, thoughts that, and I know it sounds crazy because it's like, oh, I'm coming up with ideas. It must be an external source talking to me. Like you can tell the difference, but it's like, it's hard to explain, which is why we don't come out as psychic or empathic, right? Because we sound like we're crazy.
Absolutely. This is new territory for Steph and me tonight.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
well,
the first
you
time
know,
I've talked about it to the world. Hello, world.
you're out of your comfort zone, right?
Oh,
You're
definitely.
exploring new things. So, I mean, this is interesting because, I mean, I'm the only one I've known so far is clairvoyance. And obviously, I know what an empath is, but knowing clairsentience and clairaudience, these are all new terms for me.
Well,
So I'm kind of learning as I go along here. And then basically, every time I read one, I'm like, I think I've had that experience. And all these different things happened to me when I was investigating. So I don't think it has anything to do, for me, abilities. It's just, it happened. You know, I mean, it was meant to happen and something's trying to communicate with me. Because the one thing that I do most of the time when I do my investigations is try to establish spirit communication and try to get answers to questions and see why things are there and who's there, who needs help, all that kind of stuff. Just something I've kind of, you know, majored in. Some people is into psychic photography. Some people are into, you know, energy readings and building equipment. I'm into the spirit communication. So,
Yes.
okay.
That's the most fun.
clairaudience. Got it. Okay, let's move on to number 4 here. Claircognizance. So this is an interesting one, kind of hard to explain, but it kind of comes along, and understanding this psychic ability is really weird. It's like all of a sudden it happens when you suddenly know something. Just boom. That's almost like an idea. This, you know, boom, you get this wonderful idea to start a business. Like maybe Tesla did, or I mean, not Tesla, was this Elon Musk? Boom, I'm gonna start a car called Tesla, right? It comes out of the blue. You're absolutely certain of it, but the knowledge came like seemingly just out of nowhere. You know?
To me, I think that goes along with the clairvoyance. It's the spirit or whatever the case may be that gave you that. The reason that you have this clair ability right now is what's inputting that idea into your head. So I do think that those two kind of go hand in hand.
I think it kind of goes along with all of them a little bit. 'cause
Well,
I can-
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
'cause I can relate to it a little bit. Like,
They all are the Clairs.
Yeah.
well, we
Yeah.
all are the
They
Clairs.
all have some connection in a way.
Absolutely.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
yeah.
I'm sure they
I'm
do. I
listening
mean,
to it now, listening to some of the descriptions going, well, you can see that over here and you can see that over here. And this
Exactly.
And, you know.
Like
Right.
however you heard or sensed like different ways of knowing ultimately,
Well,
right?
that's right. That's why I don't always necessarily think that this is its own, and I think that's why we only came up with the 6 versus the 8, because
Right.
I think that this one, there's something that gave you that idea, that spirit, that being, that whatever the case may be.
the universe. you know?
Yeah, whatever.
anything.
But that's what gave you the knowledge, and it did it through one of these other senses, and that's why I have trouble with this one being its own term.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting though is I started noticing like I do. Let's go back to the topic of like everyone can be a little psychic, because I think especially if like you're an artist, like when I write, I feel like I'm channeling something when I write. Like I feel like everyone's destined to channel or be psychic in some way or receive information in whatever form they want to, like any career choice they want or any way they're destined. Like with you in massaging, is like when you like felt that sort of, you know, aha moment of, oh, wow, this is really happening. Like that's sort of your way of having these gifts.
Well, when we get to the story, you'll see that the people who have clear feeling often become medically inclined
Isn't that
because
crazy?
of that exact reason.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, no matter where I go in my life, I always end up helping others.
Yeah,
due
because we're
to
like
this.
meant to be healers in a
Yep,
way. Yes,
exactly.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's almost like I think sometimes that, when I say this all due respect, I think that's sometimes a female thing. You know, females are nurturing. You know, that's how they have. You know, I mean, basically, what was it movie I watched? Was The Crow? Did you ever see the movie The Crow?
Yeah. What you
Remember
talking
what
to?
he said to that woman that was shooting up all the drugs and everything? That had the daughter. Didn't he say something like, God is, how do I want to say this? He says something about mother is the word God to children, off the lips of children, something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That
Yep.
to a child, that is God. You know, I mean, when they're born, they come in here, somebody overseeing them, protecting them, nurturing them, developing, care for them, you know? So I think a lot of times, and when I do investigations a lot of times we like to bring in a mixed pair of investigators, female and male, because they each have different, approaches, different feelings.
Yeah.
Sometimes
We're a little bit less aggressive.
yeah, sometimes the man will come in let's be honest. Men through history don't have a track record for being the kindest.
Or listen.
So
Yeah.
if you have,
Patient.
you could have a case where, a child case where, essentially you're communicating with a child. They may be scared of the male, and find comfort in the female. We did that at the Hulbert House when we were doing the deliverance up on the 3rd floor with John Zaffis. I know there was a room full of women, and there was John, who was operating the spirit box, and the women were all communicating through this female spirit. She identified herself as me. And when I walked into the room, it started to scream. And they all looked at me, get out of the room. So I jumped out of the room. Then I remember another investigator came through the other door, walking in, and it screamed again, another male. And so it seemed to be sensitive, like the male spirit, or males hurt this child maybe. And essentially there was a male spirit there that was keeping that child there, kind of, trapping. And that could be another thing. But the women, basically, they were all mothers and nurturers. They were able to get the spirit to move on to the light, nurturing.
That's
so,
beautiful.
Yeah. No, it was a wonderful experience. I've never experienced anything like that in my entire life. But I just couldn't imagine a bunch of guys say, come on, you do it. Come on, toughen up, you wussy, because that's just how men are.
Yeah.
Where the women were in tears and crying and basically, and it moved. The spirit went to the light. It's a little girl. And I know it was a little girl because I saw her in the restaurant. We were having a meeting. I saw her walk through the ballroom, stop, look in the window, and continue walking on. It was, you can see all the hairs are standing up in my arms whenever I talk about that experience. So it was pretty cool. That was one of the other reasons I continued on in paranormal. When you start getting validation, you start experiencing, you're like, oh man, this is too cool to get out of now. I'm starting finally, for years of investigating and getting nothing, I'm starting to see things and experience things. So it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely, because you're opening yourself up to it, and you're getting it's like
you're lowering your
practice.
guard.
Yeah,
some people are like black holes no matter what they do. It's like the room, the furniture could be floating up, and they walk in the door, boom, it all falls down.
Ironically, since I joined this group, I've been the black hole.
Really?
I find it so funny. Things can happen to me. I've been investigating for years and years, but when we go to Rutgers house, every couple of months, nothing has ever happened to me at Rutgers house, ever.
Well,
Me either.
I can't wait. Someday it's going to happen.
When it happens, it's pretty spectacular, but it only happens for a split second.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you relish in that split second for, for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
And you
No,
bring
that's
it up
exactly
all
how
the
I
time.
feel when you have a sense that comes in. It's a split second. And it's crazy.
Yes. Now the next one, number 5, we've sort of already got into. I think it's a little bit tied to the Clair Senses, but that's Clair empathy. And this might be a good time for you to go and talk about the experience, because now we're, again, this is basically emotional feeling. Picking out the emotions when physically around another person, or actually even an animal.
Yep. There are 6, I can't remember. There are 6 different types of empaths. I won't go into each one of them, but yes, one of them is about animals specifically. But so see, this is where I was talking about, some of them, I wouldn't have differentiated this with sentience. I would have lumped them together into one, I guess. But so basically what happened to me is, well, as it turns out, growing up, I was just very attuned to other people's emotions all the time. So here's the thing, in this day and age with the internet at your fingertips at all times, everybody's empathic. Everybody's an empath. If you're sensitive, if you get worn out easily, if you are around energy vampires, everybody is an empath. That's what I see on Facebook every single day, 17 times a day. I see it all the time. But what I do and what I feel and how I approach this is very, very different than somebody who says, oh, I'm an empath because I know that I can tell what other people are thinking. But then you break it down and they're like, oh yeah, I don't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. But, so that was my little disclaimer. But so basically the very first time it ever happened to me that I told Kevin about, because, growing up, this had always happened to me. But like we said before, I just thought that everybody understood people's emotions. I thought that that's how people interacted with other people all the time. Like if I walked in and I suddenly got really upset, I was like, okay, we're going back in the other room because I'm not talking to you right now. I thought that that's what people did.
Yeah.
So I've been a massage therapist for over 15 years. This took place almost 10 years ago now. Wow. Back in 2012, and I was in the middle of a massage. Well, actually, when I started out the massage and I placed my hands on her feet, because that's how I start grounding myself and the person, I started crying. I mean, hysterically, like tears are streaming down my face, big fat tears.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I mean, out of the blue, like if I had just started doing it right now. And I remember I started thinking about my mom, which is super weird. I was still living with my mom at the time, and I was just like, I love my mom so much. Like, she's the best thing in my life. I can't imagine my life without her. I just can't stop thinking about how much I love my mom. So I do this entire massage crying, thinking about my mom for an hour. It was awful. So I get done with the massage and I go into the bathroom and I like wipe myself up. Like, I'm like, I gotta, like my face is all like red blotchy because I'm an ugly crier, as Kevin tells me. And I get out of the bathroom and I go to find her, because we always meet with our clients afterwards and, say, how are you feeling? What's going on? And I can't find her anywhere. So I asked the receptionist, I said, where'd she go? She goes, oh, she already left. She said that she needed to go. She couldn't be here any longer. And I went, well, what happened? Was the massage, like, did something happen in the massage? She goes, no. She said that the massage was amazing and she feels like she had a breakthrough. And she just feels a lot better and she feels like she can go and deal with everything now. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she goes, her mom just died. And this is the first time that she's been out since the funeral. Somebody bought her a massage as a present to try to deal with the stress and grief of her mom dying. And she had died like 3-4 days ago.
That is so powerful. I've got chills. Like, that's a really good gift for her, too.
I was just going to say, perfect gift.
Well,
bingo. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the other side of it.
Try and top that gift next year, right? Not going to happen.
Never again. And that's the other side of it is, through my abilities, I have a tendency to have clients gravitate towards me that need emotional support, healing of some kind, because like we were saying, you gravitate towards these types of jobs. It can be very, very exhausting and very, very draining. And even Kevin says that sometimes when he's upset or he's having a bad day or something, I have a tendency to pull those emotions from him, and he feels better, and then I feel worse. So,
well, you literally absorb other people's negative energy. And
that's what happens a lot in the massages.
Wow.
And it's funny because if you went back to that place where I used to work and you asked any of the nail techs, they would get their massage first and then go for a mani-pedi or whatever. I never cared. I just said, okay, you're going to the next stop. My clients would end up being like 10 minutes late for their mani-pedis because I would have to go up and be like, so she just had an emotional breakdown. And they're like, what are you doing to all of these clients? I'm like, I don't know. Again, this is before. I'm just like, I don't know. They just start talking and they just like, all of this stuff is coming out and they're crying on my table right now. I'm sorry.
I need a massage from you.
So it was just
Sounds
something.
like you could make more money, maybe.
I don't know, but that was one of the things. Is everybody always told me I should go
Psychic
for.
masseuse.
Yes, that's great.
Trademark.
I see
Trademark.
TV show.
Trademark.
TV show in the works.
TM.
Damn. But they always said you should go into psychology, and I was like, I can't.
That's
Could
a
you-
lot.
It would be
I couldn't either.
Like I would break down or like disassociate by like the third person.
Oh, hell
But
yeah.
I did go into psychology for my major as a way to understand more about what was going on behind the scenes. I take the science and put it into the pseudoscience, and then I used it for my massage and interacting with people as well.
It doesn't
in
have to be
general.
like a therapy session. It can be used in any other form. Like
It's
you
like a
are kind of-
superficial
Yeah, yeah.
we just keep it on the top level. We're not going to get too far into it. But like I said, people just sometimes needed the release of emotions, and it's easy for me to just grab them.
It does take a toll on you though. Like if I have a friend who really needs me, like they know I will be straightforward with them. Like, yes, today bring me your problems. I'm here for you. But there's some days where I'm not okay, and I'm like, I can't take on your problems. It's not a good day.
Yep.
Luckily, they understand. I love you all. I'm sorry.
It's yeah. I mean, I really don't know what else to say about that one. It's
Rich
I
is,
mean,
Rich is stumped.
I am. I'm
There's a-
stumped.
there's a
First
first.
time. Holy
I know.
cow.
Yeah, really.
All these years.
It doesn't happen much,
Yeah.
but when it does, it's spectacular. Okay, moving on to number 6.
Vicky said it's like Reiki, I think is what she was trying to say there.
Oh,
Reiki
yeah.
can help with that. I've done some. I've had Reiki done for me. Reiki is very hard for me to receive because
Really?
I'm the one trying to place the boundary,
Yeah,
and they're trying to break down the boundary, and it's like very
makes a lot of
clashy.
sense. I've heard a lot about
Clashy.
Reiki. I'm curious by it, but it's mostly about chakras, right? And like aligning your chakras and
Some do it as
Yeah.
more of like an emotional experience. That's why I don't like it. It's draining enough.
yeah.
But I actually started to do Reiki education, like getting the lessons and everything. But I stopped when I stopped my business.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm
but-
curious about it. I'll have to try it sometime. I've always been curious, but yeah, I can see that. I probably would react the same way. Just be like, I'm doing more of the psychic work.
Yeah, it just ends up being
Just
exhausting for
exhausting.
me. It's either I have a breakthrough because I've been holding up my emotions for so long, and that's not fun because that's exhausting on a whole different level, or nothing happens in the session.
This does remind me of something freaky that happened to me. Again, never has happened again, but I got acupuncture done, and actually 2 weird things happened. So I was getting acupuncture done, and she just has me lay there for like 30 minutes with these needles, and I just randomly saw green just on the wall, like a blotch of green, and I related it to the heart chakra. And she has 2 rooms, and one of them where I saw the heart chakra was like, lovely, it's fine. She brought me into the other one. I had an anxiety attack, and in there it looked like it was like an old like Chinese jacket, and I just knew. I was like, something's going on with that jacket. I cannot relax. I mean, I know it's hard to relax with needles in you anyway, but you can do it.
They were,
Yeah.
I like acupuncture.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
That's interesting.
When it's not in that room.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm keen on people sticking needles into me.
So you don't got any tattoos?
I do have a tattoo. Did not enjoy it. Honestly, yeah. Fun. They said it'd be fun. They said you'd be cool.
Come on. You big
It was not fun, and I'm still not cool. So that was a bad deal.
failure.
I got sold a bad bag of goods. So, all right. So let's go on to the next one. Clear tangency.
Okay.
What's that one?
Have you ever seen 2 people look at you with the most blank looks? Like,
I don't remember.
What's
we
that
went
one?
through all the other ones.
all right. So this has to do with the sense of touch.
Okay.
Okay.
I knew it was touch or taste. It was
Okay.
like,
Touching an object, one can tell you information about places the object has been, who owned it, how they felt, and the information.
that's
I
like
mean, you
John
see a lot of
Dennis.
times when, I mean, some of the paranormal shows will come in and like touch it, and they'll feel the energy from it, and this was owned by this person,
Like
or
your jacket.
stuff like
maybe.
that.
I didn't
mean,
touch it though.
that's kind of one of the really cool ones, I think, because just take an object like, like this desk, and all of a sudden you know who owned it, and tragedy struck here, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of that's a really deep one.
I wish.
You know
I
what I mean?
had that.
Where do you get that information from? Is the information like coded into the table, or
Right.
Well,
coded
we
into
know
the
things can
jacket?
hold,
Yeah.
energies.
Right.
Well,
You've got dolls and all sorts
Well,
of things that can hold.
we did an investigation out on the southern tier one time, and a family bought a house. It was a farmhouse right on the highway, and they moved in. They're a young couple. They wanted to have a kid. They wanted to do the whole family. They were married. Let's have kids. We got a farmhouse. So they moved in. Everything was fine. They started to tear the house up, gut it, work on it. So they got into a room, took all the lath and plaster, everything out of the walls. When they were doing it, the guy found a pair of shears, like big, those big metal shears from long, long time ago. I mean, those things are cut like your fingers off.
Something large and scary.
Yep.
Yes, in a scary house.
Found that, then found a shoe, like an old female shoe in the wall. Okay. So, look, they're like kind of interesting antiques. So they put them on a little coffee table in the hallway, a little decorative thing. Because, again, it's a farmhouse. That's kind of the decor, right? Things started happening. They started hearing noises upstairs. They started to feel uncomfortable in their house, felt like they're being watched. They would see shadows, all the things that you don't want to experience in a home that freak you out.
Yep.
So they immediately I think they were sleeping up on the upstairs, and they're building another room upstairs, as a baby room, because they wanted to start that experience. They basically moved everything downstairs, lived out of one bedroom. They're actually sleeping in the living room, and the bedroom they had is a closet and a bathroom, and then through the kitchen out the door. They would not go into the basement, and they would not go upstairs.
Wow.
So what they did is they said, all right, we need some help. And they watched the paranormal TV shows, Ghost Hunters, all that, like everybody else. Found a group online, said, please come help us. Something's going on. They come over. They bring a psychic medium with them. Okay? So the psychic medium goes upstairs like, this room is a portal to hell. Now these people are freaking out.
Oh, God.
Right? So now they're like, we're just going to leave everything here and just move. Just like Amityville Horror. They're just going to run out in the middle of the night in a thunder rainstorm, hop in the car, and never come back. Right? Yep. So this is a negative thing that happens. See, do I think this woman picked up a portal to hell? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Anyways, we move forward in time. In comes our group, right? So we listen to the story because we always basically do a meeting and we do a consult before we walk into any place and do an investigation. We need to know everything, okay? In case they leave out some details like, by the way, I'm cooking meth in the basement, so you may want to not go down there.
Located
okay,
next
now
to
we know where
Portal
we know where the
They're gonna
source of
tell
the
you
problem
that?
is. Okay? So, anyways, we come in, we go upstairs because we have to check out this portal to hell. How many times do you get to check out a portal to hell?
Right?
It's like going to Universal, right? You got to see that Jaws ride, man. I got to go on that. So I got to see this gate to hell. So, what would any good paranormal investigator do, like myself? Put Pete in the closet and lock it. That's what I did. Pete, what's going on in there? Oh, nothing. Kind of getting hungry. So we started doing spirit communication, trying to do everything to make this portal to hell open. Nothing. Not a single thing happened. Nothing negative. Nothing. Right? Okay. So moving along to basically correlate this to this psychic ability. I'm walking down with a meter, and I'm walking down the hallway. I come by the little table with the shoe and scissors. All my meters start going off. I'm like, wow. I'm like, and I look down and I'm like, well, what is this thing? He goes, it's a shoe and it's a scissor. I pulled it out of this room. I go, there must be like you got some strong current coming through here. I go, maybe you have an open wire. Something's not, shielded. So he goes, no, there's no power in that room. So we open the door, go in the room. There's not a single outlet. There's no power at all in the entire room. Where the heck is the energy coming from? The energy was coming from the shoe and the scissors.
Oh, my God.
Boom. Peg a K2 meter red. You know what else pegs a K2 meter red? Put it next to a microwave oven and turn it on high. That.
Or the transformer.
Unrelated note, but yeah.
Okay. So what do we do as an investigator? We take these objects out They have a lot of energy. Now, if I had a clear tangency person in there, they could have touched those, correct? Those two are, and they could have told me what was going on, who owned them, or whatever. So we took the items out of the house, put them in a nice little box, and they put it in the garage way in the back. Guess what happened? Everything stopped. Everything.
Crazy.
They're like, oh, thank you. You know, you guys are great. You know, great. Thank you. It's like, boom. We had a case. We figured something out. You know, we felt really good about ourselves. Until about 2.5 weeks later, when I got a phone call at 11:30 at night from a crying female. Couldn't understand what she's saying. It's back. It's back. And the first thing I asked, you know, first of all, I was like, calm down, calm down. And the first thing I asked is, where's the shoe?
Yeah.
And the scissors. Oh, they're back on the table. Why in God's name would you bring that back into the house?
People are
They said they couldn't stop thinking about it.
Oh.
Another one of these psychic abilities, right?
Oh, yes, it is.
Thinking about it, right?
Full circle.
So they went, brought the items back in. See how I did that?
Yeah.
Brought the items back in. I went out to the house because I was the closest. And let's face it, they called me 11:30 at night. What option did I really have? Kevin will call you tomorrow. So I go out there, I take the objects, put them in a box. And they had a couple acres of land, and it was pretty much mucky and muddy and cornfieldish. And I went out and I found a spot and I buried them. And they're like, what'd you do with them? I said, don't worry about it. So it stopped. I never heard from them again. So if they went all the way out there to look for those with a lantern at night, I know there's somebody.
Just don't burn them.
You know?
Just don't burn.
Then essentially,
FYI.
there's nothing more I can do.
Right. Spirit
okay?
wins.
Yes.
If it's really
Don't-
attracting them to the
Yeah.
burial.
Don't burn objects with energy because it'll just go someplace else. And guess what will
Release it.
happen?
Well,
it could
'cause
go
it's
with
a
your nice
cleansing.
little MacBook. Oh, that looks cozy. You know, take that home with you. So
that works.
so you got to be really careful with that. So again,
Good to know.
these are things.
Apple doesn't have a patch for that
No.
yet either.
Apple support. There's a ghost in my Mac. Sorry, we can't help you with that.
That's not covered under Apple Care. Sorry, guys.
No. Let me see. Nope, not covered. Good luck with
You
that.
should have buried him in a box. Sorry.
Our text said you should put it in a box, buried it in a hole in a cornfield, 1.65 miles away. But use your app, your Google app, or your map app, and walk. You know, because you can now
Your Apple
basically,
app.
you know, how
That whole
how far
shoe
you can
thing
walk.
blows my mind, though. Why they used to do that for luck, right? That was one of the things.
Some
they used to do.
some
Yeah.
tradition.
It was a
Yeah.
tradition. I forgot where it came from, though.
Old school stuff.
Yep.
So
But not to go off of that story, but I was just going to add in the beginning that while I don't have the ability to touch something and find information from it, my easiest and best way to use my abilities is to touch a person. That's why when I held her feet, the emotions came in so strongly versus when I have to open my energy field and do something try to make a connection. Touching the person, the emotions will come more easily, and I'm able to release them from the person much
Again,
more easily.
that connection. There's always
Exactly.
connection somewhere
Yep.
between these things
Yeah.
all falling
But
into
I didn't want
a
to like
psychic
jump
realm,
off of
if
that
you will.
story. So,
No,
I wonder what would have
it's-
happened though if like you contacted with the shoes. If
I
you
don't know. I
followed.
don't see that fear, but it's not a fear. It's just you don't go around touching things. So I don't go around touching things.
I'm trying to tell that to many people. You're gonna get in
So
trouble.
I don't-
See, it's another
I
one
don't
of
know
those
how-
things ingrained from when you know, like
Yeah.
the religion thing. You don't
Yeah,
touch things.
you don't
so.
touch things. So I
I'm sure it's in the Bible someplace.
So I've
didn't say
never
it was
really
religious.
done that too much.
It's just your mom going around. Stop touching things.
Oh, that's
Sorry, Father.
true.
I'll behave.
Stop touching
No,
things.
that's, I mean, not so much
totally-
religion,
yeah.
but yeah, you're told
Just
when you
anything
go
when you're a kid.
into some, like, I come in here, I don't go around touching your stuff, Todd.
Right.
So.
I've touched.
appreciate
I've
that.
touched everything though.
Well, at least if you do, use the hand sanitizer.
Yes.
It's everywhere. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean,
For your
it's there, it's over there. There's antibacterial wipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
There's
think
two of them on the table here.
I do think anything you learn as a kid, though, does engrave. It's not just religion. I just use that as an example, but I think anything,
yeah.
like when you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
It just
The
sticks
way you're
with you.
brought up. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, needless to say, when you see those people in the movies, like, I don't just walk into a room and go, let's see what I can pick
You
up.
just go like this in someone's face, be like,
Yeah.
"Shh, don't worry about it."
Yeah. it's more like I have to, I don't know, there's a whole
You could touch that little coffee table and talk about the Swedish like IKEA person that built it. Right?
Yes.
I mean, that's
Or
the other
designed it.
thing is not everything has a story and something
True.
connected to it.
And you can't
Yeah.
like will it to happen.
No,
it happens
never.
to you. I think that's another reason why I don't like advertise tarot readings to people. Like I love doing it for my friends. I love practicing it. But it's like, what if that's the one day that like I can't read someone? I can't get my senses to work, and
Yeah.
my guide is like, no, not this person, and then the person over here is like, why aren't you doing the reading? My guide said no. Like,
Or like
You're
in
no
my
good here.
case,
Yeah.
You got some serious self-defeating
Well, no, I
vibes
agree.
going on there.
No, it's just you
gotta have
question
more. You gotta have more
everything.
Yeah.
positive belief in yourself. that
No,
you'll
I mean,
succeed.
if
You know what? You fail, you fail.
true.
I mean, that's how people become
true.
successful. They trip
Yeah.
and fall and fail all the time.
I mean,
and they're not
our-
embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
And they just said, well, guess what? That's not going to work. That's the wrong way to do it. Unless you're insane. And I think by definition, sanity is doing the same thing every
and
single
over.
time, expecting a different results.
Yeah.
But
you
I mean,
know?
even our paranormal investigating, we have that disclaimer like, nothing may happen tonight. You
Right.
know, at 3:00 every morning, you have this happen. It may not happen tonight because we're here, because we're changing things, because XYZ reasons. You
Right.
know, so
Yeah. That's a very good point.
All right. So, what about smelling? Smelling is another one.
Yeah.
And there's one called Clear Aliens. Okay. I almost want to call it Clear Alliance, but it's aliens.
it's aliens.
So it's essentially clear smelling. So you can smell odors out of the blue when there is no physical source for them.
You brought
Hence, I
that
go
up
back to
before.
earlier when I
Yep.
talked about it was actually a historic society we went into, and there was a fire there. They did try to burn it down before, and then when she's playing, all of a sudden I could smell the smoke, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, she goes, "Can you smell it?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "It comes and goes all the time." You know,
Yeah.
be sitting there, and all of a sudden it's like just come overwhelmed by it, like you're sitting in the middle of the fire. It's just so. I mean, that's essentially. I don't know if it's a special ability or if it's something that's trying to channel. See, that's the other thing we don't talk
Yeah.
about, the channeling part of it, where if a spirit or something wants to channel some information to you, so you feel something, that you smell something, you see something, you hear something.
I think there's a
You know?
relationship too.
And
I
it could
agree.
be because maybe you have the ability, and maybe there's people in the group that doing the same thing too, but they don't have that ability, so they experience nothing. And then some people have that,
I agree.
and maybe they can pick out who basically can sense that too as
Yeah.
well.
And there's a different degree of like sensitivity too. So like people who are going to notice it more than others. Like maybe you feel like people who can brush it off easier than other people.
Right. Or explain it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we see that in everyday life with like people with allergies. So
Yeah.
people walk around during all the season when all the stuff and pollen's out there, and they're just like, yeah, no worries. And other people are like, oh my God, I'm so good. Oh, I feel so bad. I feel terrible for those people. They're just so sensitive to it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good way to put it.
And paranormal investigating is like fishing. You're always going to go, you're always like, okay, these are the most prime conditions. The water is clear, the temperature's right. I mean, I studied fishing because I used to fish for years, and you could still go out on the most prime, specific day and follow what all the old timers told you to do. Don't do this, make sure the grass is blowing to the left, and and go out and not catch anything or even get a bite. And you could take people, this is my favorite fishing hole, we're going to catch a whole bunch of fish, and nothing even happens.
Yeah.
So that's paranormal investigating. And we basically, when we do our investigations, we tell people in our events, we can't guarantee anything's going to happen. I mean, many times it does, but there are times it doesn't. So at least you're going to be entertained, and you're going to learn something, and you're going to see something really cool. And that seems to be enough for many people. But there are those in the group that do experience things that come along with us, and they've showed me some really cool stuff. So, I mean, it's nice when people relate to it and they want to learn more about it. And when you're talking to them about this subject matter, they're open to it and they listen and they absorb it, instead of people like, whatever. There's always that when we do our events. There's always the wife that drags her husband along. Oh, this is all BS. I'm just doing this because of my wife.
Amen.
Because that's the macho thing. But if something actually happened, that person would be the first one to crap their pants and run out the door.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Then there are, and this is not to basically make fun of dudes, but there are guys that like, I bought this. I remember one guy come to me and said, I bought this ticket and everything. So we did a VIP event. He said, I bought this for my wife for her birthday. She's really into this kind of stuff. I wanted her to take her to do it. I'm like, oh, what a good guy, you know? And he sat there, he smiled the whole time. I knew he wasn't into it, but he went along with it because she was enjoying herself. And that's kind of, you know.
That's so nice. I feel like my parents are the opposite now that I think about it. Like, my dad would buy the tickets and drag my mom. And my mom would be like,
well, that happens. That happens sometimes, but it's usually the women are more, they're just more, I guess they're better about it. The guys are always like, oh, on their seats, like, really? You know, and the girls just smile, even though they're like, oh, this is BS or whatever. They just smile. I mean, women carry themselves differently. Men have this sometimes awkward body language. So, all right. So we've got one more to get through, and we almost did it in an hour.
Yeah, almost.
Okay, almost.
Sorry, guys.
We always go a little over.
Okay, so this has to do with the old gut. This is called Clair Senses. Okay.
Oh, that's why.
And
I'm trying to figure out why it was called that.
This has to do with tasting. Okay. So tasting means you can taste certain things that you have not actually eating.
This one's the weirdest one to me.
Yeah.
I can't say that I've actually like done an investigation and someone who passed away was big into making brownies, and this is what they always did. And I was like, I taste brownie. I've never had that.
It's more smell.
Yeah, smell for me too. Yeah.
Smell and the audio portion.
Right.
Or sometimes the visual thing where you see something like jet off the corner or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but this I've never had. So, I mean, it would be interesting, you know, to have this, but
I don't know. I don't think I'd like it.
I don't know if anyone's actually
I mean, I'm
experienced it or
assuming
shared this with
somebody
me.
has. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it must be a thing.
Oh, yeah, but no,
you know?
I don't think I've ever heard anybody. Like, I was telling Steph before when we were looking these over, I get, like, a bad taste in my mouth, but it's not, like, something
Look at my cheat sheet.
about what's going on. It's normally, like, something bad happened or something bad is going to happen, and I get, like, that sour, metallic taste in my mouth.
Yeah,
like
I
I'm
think
gonna throw up.
I think that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's about it.
Certain factors of environment get like this nasty, like almost like medical, like kind of like you know, if you're in a hospital for a few days, you get that
like a
just
medical sort of.
Yeah. It's like you know, you want to go home and brush your teeth for 3.5 hours and gargle and Budweiser or so anything just to get rid of that.
All at once.
Crap.
Just brush it with all of it.
Yeah, but this again is tasting. So you know, again, if somebody has a haunted ice cream shop or bakery,
I would love to.
And this could be a thing that happens.
That would be nice.
That would be great.
Let's practice that.
Best diet ever.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I mean, the example they use in here is like, for example, you can taste fresh bread, tea, chocolate. In fact, it could be anything. The ability is useful when giving readings as it can indicate to the client who you are talking about and validate clearly what they present.
I mean, that makes sense.
So if you're somebody's psychic doing a reading and they're like, oh, I'm talking to your grandma. She used to love chocolate brownies. I can taste it right now. It tastes of nutmeg.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It goes along with all the other senses.
It does.
So those are the 8 major psychic powers. If you want to read more about this, you can go to psychic-ability.com and explore more into this. It depends on how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole, because these things just expand and go deeper and deeper, and you know. But if you truly believe that you have an ability or experience like this, you should research into it and you should embrace it. Honestly,
yeah,
you really should learn more about it.
Yeah,
you know?
the more you learn about it, the more you're going to get sensitive to it and pay attention
and you'll be able to hone your skill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you really are deep into this and you have a special skill set like this, we'd love to have you on our show. We'd love to talk to you and give us your experience and how you deal with it. Share some examples. We're sponges. We like to absorb knowledge and stories and stuff. So reach out to Disruption Network, and there should be a link on there for our show, or just visit us on Facebook at Agent Paranormal, and just message us, and we'll get you on the show. If you want to be a guest and sit here with us, great. If you don't, you want to call in, we can do that as well. We've got some pretty cool tech here in the Disruption Network studio. We can do pretty much anything. I'm waiting for Kevin to call in from Vegas. I haven't seen him on anywhere.
He's got some comments on here.
Of course we do.
Yeah. It's hard to jump them in sometimes, to where the conversation's going.
It is.
Let's see.
On your diet, having pizza breath, something about, no, I swear it was a ghost.
Pizza breath. Pizza breath is a good breath. As long as you don't have to smell it on someone else. They're all good breaths.
I'm not going to say it's aliens, but it's aliens. There's another one of his.
Not aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it is something alien.
Pete said something about chicken wings earlier. I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah, that taste one's weird. But the
I was
smell,
waiting.
like-
I've been sitting there the whole time waiting, looking to see, is Pete going to say something?
Yeah.
Did he?
He said something about chicken wings earlier. Someplace had phenomenal chicken wings. There was
Was it in
some place Rich was
Gettysburg?
talking about. I don't know.
Well, wait till I make my special hot chili, and then I'll bring it in here, and you guys will all be having,
We'll have a Paisano episode.
you'll be having some clear gustins.
Yes.
And along with some people may not react to the chili well, so there's definitely some clear aliens. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
It's aliens.
See,
Oh, boy.
see, Kevin, I can do that too.
Yeah.
So
I got to get a rim shot effect.
Yes. It'll never end.
well, what more can we tell our listening audience about psychic powers? Anything else that comes to mind you can think of?
Well, I'll say that when we were doing the nighttime walks, we had a group of Girl Scouts come once. So they're all, in very impressionable ages, middle school type. And there was a girl about 13 or so, hitting puberty, and she came up and she was like, I have a question. And basically, long story short, she has the beginnings of empathic abilities, and she didn't know how to handle it, and she didn't know what to do, and her mom was bringing her over and saying, tell her about this, tell her maybe this group can help you. So if you have a child, or if you are the child listening, and puberty is a huge age for developing these abilities, and if you just feel like you need to reach out and you want help, and you don't know how to research or don't know where to start or anything like that, we're definitely here to help you with that too. We want to be able to help people no matter what. Usually we go into their houses or we do events, but this is something that, while we do not all have the abilities or know about all of the abilities, we can find a way to help you, and we can find the people who can help you if it's not us. So.
Point you in the right direction for sure.
Exactly.
Definitely. All you
And
need
that,
is
that brings
like,
up an interesting thing.
Pete says he has gustins all the time, by the way.
He does.
He does.
So, coming out of the pandemic, that's at least the direction I hope we're heading, we look at paranormal investigating in a different light. Gone are the days when anyone would call up and we would go to their house and investigate a ghost. Okay? We've got some new ground rules that we kind of use. And this is more for our safety and respect for privacy, and also out of respect for property owners as well. So what I mean by this essentially is that if someone's having a paranormal problem, the first thing to do is reach out to us, and we try to gather up the information, okay? Then basically decide, okay, I mean, this is something relevant. Is this something we feel that we could help with? Once we make the determination, we set up what's called a consult, okay? Now, basically, because of everything going on with the pandemic, we probably would do those via Zoom or Facebook Messenger or some way that we're not in the same, room together, at least for now, until we get past all this. Then once we decide that, there truly could be something paranormal, then we'll go in and then we'll do an investigation, okay? And now, people need to understand, not all the time is it like one investigation and then we uncover everything. Sometimes we need to go back a few times. Sometimes we can do it once. And then what we're supposed to do is, at the completion of that, go through our findings, which encompasses hours and hours of time, and then provide whatever specific findings we have. And then let the person who owns the place make the determination if it's actually evidence. And what I mean by evidence, like, correlates to anything that's going on with them. Like if someone, answers from the spirit box, Jim, and the person that died in the house was named Jim, then there's a correlation, okay? So the other thing we try to do is, like, we know a lot of people rent and lease places, apartments and homes and stuff like that. And we try to, if we're going to do someone's apartment or house that they lease, we have a policy where we like to get permission from the landlord, okay, the person who owns the property. Because, we just don't want to be put in a position where they call and say, listen, hey, my apartment's haunted. and they call a paranormal group in, and they're like, oh, the paranormal group came. They said it's haunted. I got to get out of my lease. I got to get out of here. I can't live here. Now, that's a complete injustice to the person who owned the property, okay? Because there could be...
I don't know if that one's going to hold up in court.
Malintent, because essentially, well...
I don't know.
Some people wouldn't go the court route, though. I mean, that costs money. But the problem is that we don't want... And there's a few people, not everyone. Again, you have to gauge the population by the sample, which is the bad apples, right? Mm-hmm. Those people always basically seem to steer the ship in the direction... Go around this because somebody would have, messed up something here. So, but essentially, we just don't want to be put in a position where people leave their place and then they say it's haunted because we told them, and then that landowner now basically has to, or the apartment owner or homeowner, whatever, now has to make some type of arrangements to get them out of there, move someone. It's just messy. You know what I'm saying? Is what I'm trying to say. So we avoid it. And we have done some where the homeowner was there. Or the homeowner gave us permission. Now, permission isn't like, oh, yeah, I talked to him. He said, yeah, you can come on in. Then that's not permission, okay? So, I mean, we just had to change things along the way because of, as societies develop, paranormal's developed. And we still have a lot of cases where people want us to investigate. Like the wife wants us, but the husband doesn't, or vice versa, okay? So we get it, Home investigating is a very difficult thing nowadays because of, people just are concerned, And if you do an investigation with a group, make sure it's a reputable group. You don't want people to be in there that are not reputable. So, I mean, that's just kind of how the direction we're going. Businesses, obviously, will go in and do any time. And have we had businesses reach out to us for paranormal issues? Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're just as freaked out anyways. And sometimes they're there more than they are actually at home. True. So that freaks them out even more. And I don't know if you've been in some of these giant warehouses, but some of those places are pretty creepy. And people just don't want to be there. Nope. And I get it. So, so investigating is evolving and changing. Some in some ways for the better, in some ways, not. But it's like anything, it changes. So, but we would love to do an investigation with someone who outlines a lot of these psychic powers. The clairvoyance and all that. It'd be interesting to see what they can pick up in addition and validate what they find with our equipment. That's the other thing. We did work with a local woman that she wanted to go with us actually, so we could validate what she was doing. Because she's like, well, this is what I'm experiencing. But can you record stuff? Can you use meters to basically get answers and things like that? So she really wanted to know if her abilities were real or if... there's something wrong with her. That was her words.
Yes,
there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't. We don't judge anybody. So we did, and in a few instances, we were able to basically verify what she was going through. Basically, what I mean by that is there an Alan here because she's speaking to someone named Alien. Then all of a sudden, Alan would light up the meters or do something. So there's some things that did correlate. So that's cool. That was a good learning experience for us because the metaphysical thing is a very big thing, and it's part of the paranormal in so many ways. And to infuse the scientific to the metaphysical would be like a big meeting of the minds. I mean, we could get there, man, it'd be pretty awesome. But there are TV shows that Todd? You watch some of the shows. What's the one there? It's got the police officer.
Oh, Dead Files.
Dead Files with Amy Allen.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So there are TV shows.
Mind. She blows my mind.
That's what I'm saying.
It's amazing.
There are people that have a skill set, and that's pretty awesome. Then you got the Long Island Medium, and some of these shows, obviously, we call it guided reality because, something's going to happen. Something's got to happen because they have to shoot an episode. They got to put it on TV.
Right.
And nobody's going to want to watch it. Look what happened to Finding Bigfoot. They weren't finding Bigfoot anymore. Guess what happened to Finding Bigfoot?
He's very upset.
I loved the show. I loved it. They would show some stuff in the beginning. I mean, I knew they weren't going to have some big earth-shattering discovery, but man, they were in some of the most beautiful parts of the country, out in the woods and the scenery and I'm an outdoors person, so I loved that show. If there was Bigfoot around here, I'd be out looking for him.
Not me.
No, the Adirondacks there is, but essentially, I don't know how many sightings have been a long time ago.
Really?
Well, you got the one. You got the one there. Whitehall. That was back in the 80s?
I didn't know anything about Bigfoot, I'll be honest.
Well, you're going to learn something about it.
I need to.
We're going to learn you some stuff.
You're going to learn something. You're going to get schooled. So Well, that's pretty much all I've got, unless you have some more to share tonight.
I'm good. I feel like I have exposed myself enough on here. You all,
Not sure that's a good choice of
you
words.
know all my secrets.
It was a good discussion.
It was.
A lot of viewership.
Nobody's exposing anyone on a streaming show. We leave that stuff for the podcast.
Emotional
They'd kick us.
exposure.
Yeah, they'd
Yeah.
kick us off of Facebook. But.
Oh my God, he's naked. Well, you can do that on podcasts. Streaming, you get in some serious trouble.
Howard Stern. That's what it
Yeah,
reminds me of.
absolutely. So with that final note, I close my laptop. I bid everyone to do. Have a wonderful
Look,
night.
He's got the
I
accent.
know.
Thank you, Stephanie. God. And Maeve and Todd. We had a great show, and we hope some people learned something, and I know I did. And thank you for sharing your experiences. And I cannot wait till we get out and do some more investigating here. I'm just
Me
been
too. I'm excited.
Seriously.
itching at it. So make sure you check us out on Facebook at Agent Paranormal and check out Disruption Network. They've got a lot of great programming for you to watch. And until then, we'll see you in, well, not 2 weeks because it's going to be Mother's Day.
Oh,
That's
right.
like the sacred day. I mean, come on, moms.
Yeah, true.
Moms rule. So we'll see you in a couple weeks. And just make sure you watch Facebook, and we'll have a posting of special guests and the topics that we're going to discover. And if you have any specific topics you'd like to see, reach out to us on Facebook and let us know.